So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back once again to the show. Before I get into all the topics that I would like to get into, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Give the channel a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, well, subscribe to the channel as well. All right, guys? Ladies and gentlemen, today, October the 1st, 2025, has been a good date, a good date. It depends how you see it, but it's a good date. Um, saludos, Mike, saludos. October the 1st, Omega has decided to join, and pump prices up on their tariffs. They decided to, go that route in the United States. And they're raising the prices between a 6 and a 10% tariffs, Omega's doing their thing, their song and dance, and they have some watches like entry level Omega watches. The Speed Master, it rises from 7,300 to $7,800. This is for you guys, so you know what's happening. Um, you also have the steel, steel on steel Speedmaster. The 57 is up from $10,000 to $10,700. Okay, so you know what's going on. The situation is, it's heading in that direction, and you guys know about that. I'm giving you this heads up because maybe you guys didn't have time to read, what's happening out there with these watches. But I don't know my thing. But also you have the Seamaster Diver, the 300. The Seamaster Diver 300, the Milanese steel bracelet is up now from 7,000. We're alive, Mr. Donor. We're alive. From 7,300 up from $6,800. It seems to me that this group Swatch, appears to be cushioning consumers, with those, tariff numbers, not to really freak you out, to your Omega collectors, to not to get you scared. So they're going with those numbers there, giving a little cushion, so you guys don't bug out, Uh, you know, it has an additional 29%, 29% tariff. So it's what's going on. You have other watches who are still on holdout, and you ask yourself, well, which of the watches they're on holdout? And I'll tell you, they're holdout. Tag Heuer is in holdout. Breitling, if you guys like Breitling, they're still holding out. AP, Audemars Piguet, they're still holding out. And, the king, the king of watches is holding out as well. The king, the king is, right? The king is holding out as well. Group Swatch became the latest one, the latest victim in the United States to start already, with the tariffs, so a watch that cost you $10,000 now will cost you $10,700. $700 is $700. You know what I'm trying to say, Mr. Donut. You know what I'm trying to say. They're there. This is where they belong. That's where the king, the king is. Look right here. You see the triangle right in the middle? That's the king. So just to let you know about that, all right? So you guys know what's happening, and you guys start getting comfortable on hearing that tariffs, welcome to America. Let the tariffs, watch tariffs, welcome to America. Just to let you know. I also want to talk to you a little bit about something else too. That's a little bit important for you guys to know. People they're looking into precious metal materials. And I'm going to talk about today about a precious, metal material, which is, really moving on up, moving on up quickly. And we're talking about silver, silver. We're talking about silver. We're talking about I call it the poor man's, precious metal. But it doesn't have nothing poor in it, but I just say that, because it has a price that is not comparable to the gold, to the platinum, and so on and so on. But I must talk to you about uh, silver because it's something important for you guys to hear. I don't know if you guys know that the price of silver today is at $47.22 a troy ounce. And I don't know if you guys know, is that the highest that, silver has ever been? I'm asking you guys, you 11 organic watch channel subscribers. If you do a Googling search, it's no fun. But I'm asking you the question. Is the $47.22 the troy ounce? Is it the highest it has ever gone? It's the highest ever. It's the highest ever. Mr. Donald says it's the highest ever. And that's what I wanted to know, somebody to say the truth. Yes, they say that the $47.22 is the highest ever on silver. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why I'm taking this time to talk to you a little bit about silver, because you guys need to know this. In 1980, in the year 1980, I was 18 years old. I was 18 years old, and there was it was the Hunt brothers. They were the Hunt brothers. Like Hunt's ketchup, but these guys' names were the Hunt brothers. You know, they attempted to corner the silver market in 1980. Listen to this. In 1980, they said we're gonna corner the market y vamos a salsichar a todo el mundo con la plata. This is unheard of. In 1980, the year 1980, the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market. And the price that it had at that moment in 1980 is something crazy, let me tell you. It is crazy. You remember this, beautiful. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for somebody, because we have to do our homework. We can't be, pulling your hair. When we telling you something, Google it. If it doesn't sound so perfect, that's fine. But you Google it, he did try to say it. He didn't say it quite well, but he said it, And I'm telling you, these are the Hunt brothers. Unos tipos bravos. These people were unbelievable. And, they came in blazing, in 1980, and they put silver at a price, a troy ounce, at $49.45. And it was una locura. I was too young of a man to understand what was happening in 1980, but this was going on, and you have people. It was the moment that gold also took off. Gold, but the poor man's metal was metiendo trancazo. Like it was bombarding. Something unheard of. $49.45 in 1980. We had Jimmy Carter in power, I believe. We had the Mariel boat lift from Cuba. We had an exchange from Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan. Una jodienda. We had those people that were on hostage. You know what I'm talking about. In 1980 in hostage, they put the blind thing in their face. You know what I'm trying to say, right? You know what I'm trying to say. Let me drink some water because I'm getting agitated. You know what I'm saying? Let me drink some water to calm down. So it went to that price of $49.45. The Hunt brothers were unbelievable. They did this to the T. Y el billete volando. Plata, que estaba por el piso. Silver was through the floor. It was like people were throwing the floor. But it went up there because these these Hunt brothers, were trying to, trying hard, to corner the silver market. You can imagine all the silver those brothers must have had. But ladies and gentlemen, fast forward. We come here to drop knowledge, papi, para que aprendan. That way it kicks in, something will, tingle your head and you get brighter, you get smarter. And in 2011, the year 2011, the millennium, not even the millennium, 2011, in April of 2011, silver again jumped up, unbelievable, to a price of $48.70. So you see that 1980 was that price. In 2011 is this price. And today we're talking about something that is unbelievable in the way it is behaving. We're talking about today's silver, $47.22. The biggest people out there, they gold is up here. We know gold is up here already. And now, these big people, monster people, with masks on, they don't even want you to see their faces. They're talking right now, 47.54. Thank you very much, Mr. Donna, for letting me know what the price is. I'm sorry that I mixed it up with a couple of, little pocket change there. But these monsters, these big people, people that they put a mask on, a masquerade mask, they're saying that the silver is going to break every single record that is out there. So, at $47.54, as Mr. Donut said, it's a bargain, Dame un par de kilos, give me 5 kilos, give me 4 kilos, because they're saying that right behind the gold is silver, it's silver. So $50 in there. There you go. So, if you have, I'm not here giving you any advice on buying these commodities. I'm not no expert. I don't claim that I am. I just do a lot of reading, man. I sit in front of the computer and I read and I disconnect. I go inside the TV y me pierdo. I get lost in there, and then I come out, blazing, I come out blazing. And, I start looking at all these different people, from the Morgans to the Rockefellers, to the Rothschilds, Blackstone, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, the Bilderbergers, the Owl, you start putting everything together, and this silver is behaving like, we know gold is el macho. We know gold is macho man. That wrestler, Randy Savage, macho man. We know that gold is the macho man, but silver, silver anybody can buy. Anybody can buy silver. I'm gonna head into also to platinum, so please bear with me. I'm going that way too. So you have this precious metal material, which I'm not gonna be calling it no more the poor man's precious metal, because Bobby, these people with the mask on, they're dame todo, give me tons of it, give me tons. For whatever reason, give me tons. If you want to know what I'm talking about, you Google it. You Google it, because I do enough giving you this information that you guys need to. Okay, brass. Okay, Mr. Donna's calling the poor man's metal is brass. Okay, fine. We're going to call that one too. But so you know what's going on. Check yourselves out with silver and don't fall asleep. I'm not advising none of you to buy anything, no silver, nothing, I don't want to get no thunder lightnings. I don't want to get, the TV tower antenna to blow up, I just want to give you information that these people that you were used to giving away your family's money away, you can do something with this. I'm trying to give you a lead to get your money back somehow. Vamos a ayudar a esta gente, mano. Let's help them out. Si yo soy el único come mierda que lo voy a ayudar. ¿Tú entiendes? Lo voy a ayudar de gratis. El tiempo mío cuesta mucho dinero. You know what I say? El tiempo mío cuesta mucho dinero. If somebody speaks Castellano, Spanish, Latino, put it up there so they understand, because I'm not going to tell them. I'm not going to tell them, No le voy a decir nada. I also want to talk to you about platinum. Platinum is at 50% higher now, today, than it was, some years back. Between $600 to $1,200, the troy ounce. And today, platinum is at $1,600 and holding strong. Holding strong is there too. It's like that. Gold, silver, platinum. Una locura lo que está pasando. Una locura. Y ustedes tienen que estar preparados. And all of you need to be prepared. Because this is coming. We don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you are purchasing these precious metals, don't put it in one basket. Because I told you, those people with the ugly mask, with the ugly, you can only see their pupils. You can only see their pupils because they don't want you to see who they are. Eso es increíble. Esa gente se esconde los ojos, They don't even want you to see who they are. They're buying all the silver they can get their hands on. They're buying all the platinum they can get their hands on. And it's crazy, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, I gotta tell you something, and it's crazy because uno se queda aturrado. You get confused. The way gold is just, I don't know where it's going to. Maybe you guys can give me the right terminology, how to use the word, where it's going is unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, gold today hit a number. When it opened up today, it opened up at $3,887, right? $38.87. Brutal. $38.87. Coño, that was unbelievable. And ladies and gentlemen, at 9 a.m., my time here in Florida, it was at $3,896. $3,896. What I'm trying to tell you is that this thing every day is moving. It's moving. Se está moviendo. They're pushing it, They're pushing it, You know what I'm trying to say? And ladies and gentlemen, it closed today, and it's safe to say this. Maybe you guys want to correct me, and I like to get corrected. I like to get boo. You're always gonna get the boos from the cheap seats. You're always gonna get the boos from the cheap seats, but that's how it is. You know what cheap seats are? Up there. They boo you. Not the ones in the box seats. The one up there, they boo you, and I'm fine with that. You can boo me all you want. But today, ladies and gentlemen, it's safe to say that it's at $3,900. $3,900, the troy ounce of pure gold. It's scary. It's scary when you look at all these people, all these experts, and then you're hearing that that black stone and black rock are loading up on it too, and they don't care if it goes up, down, give it to me. And then you're hearing China and India also give it to me. I don't care if it keeps on going up. I don't care. Remember, these people from India, these people have a lot of gold. Don't get confused with the Indians. Los Hindu, they have a lot of gold hidden away, ladies and gentlemen. This is for real. Esos hindús son la tranca, they're the tranks, and they have a lot of gold, and so does China. China is give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Everything you have, give it to me. I take it all. I take it all. I take it all. They don't even ask prices no more. Just give it to me. You know, it's unbelievable. But I gotta keep on telling you this so you know what's going on. I told you already about silver. What's happening with silver, and silver is going crazy. To all of you that were not here, I'm going to ask the same question to all of you. Do you believe that this $47.54 that we have on silver today is the highest ever? Do you believe it's the highest? Well, if you do believe it's the highest, I got news for all of you. It's not the highest. It was cornered back in 1980 by the Hunts brothers. By the Hunts brothers in 1980, and it went all the way up. And in 1980, in 1980, papi, you had things. The world was, it was kind of crazy, but it was better than today. Era una jodienda, tú sabes, era una jodienda. En el 80, el Mariel, los marimberos, cocaine cowboys, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, those people, they were over there. The ones that they were over there. I don't know what country. The guy, the Ala Butani. What was his name? ¿Cómo se llama el tipo ese? Dios mío. He had a big hat, a big hat, wrapped around his head, somebody help me, And Ronald Reagan said when he will get to office, he will give him, one day, let him all go. The hostage. It's called the hostage crisis, I don't know too much about this stuff, but it was crazy, But not crazier than today. Today what we have is una locura, So, entonces, pues, eso es lo que hay en el traqueteo. Todo el mundo en el traqueteo, todo el mundo gozando en bitters, en cats, en faces in the grove, Club Z, y la descarga y muchas botellas de champán, Magnum, Cristal, Cliclot, But, times were different. And today we are in a time that is getting scary out there, fellas. You got to know what you're doing. Spend your money properly. Club Z, papi, Club Z, ahí mismo Club Z. El Mutiny, tú sabes, toda esa gente, yo los conocía. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to tell you that in 1980, silver went all the way up to $49.45 by the Hunt brothers who tried to corner the silver market, all right? In 1980. And in 2011, it jumped up all the way up to $48.70, all right? So what I'm trying to say is those two numbers are the highest ever that we have right now. Right now we have $47.54. They say it's going to slash the record. It's going to slash. So if you're thinking, of going to Costco and you see a couple of ounces there, I'm not advising none of you to do none of this stuff. I'm not. Esto es yo hablando aquí lo que era. ¿Tú me entiendes? Eso es lo que hay, papá. So prepare yourself with that, all right? We're going to go into another subject, ladies and gentlemen. The watch brand H. Moser and Chai, they have released a couple of watches, beautiful streamliners, two beautiful streamliner tourbillons, and they're going to be introducing them this weekend, at the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm a big fan of H. Moser. I'm a real big fan, to be honest. I think it's un reloj futuristic, and they make tremendous watches and movements, and their craftsmanship is unbelievable. And they're in Formula One, ellos están trepados en Formula One, the cars, those racers, Michael Schumacher, you know what I'm trying to say? Ayrton Senna, you know what I'm trying to say, right? So this watch is going to be, this coming weekend, the race over there in Singapore is going to be this gentleman by the name of the Moose. The Moose is loose. The Moose is loose. Yes, it might be dead in water, but they're making a run. They're making a run. They have a good backup. They're not flim-flamming people. They're doing real good branding, good marketing. And they have joined. With this French Pierre Gasly. A car racer. So le da prestigio. Prestige to that watch brand. So I want you to also be on the lookout for H. Moser. They're doing their song and dance as well. Ladies and gentlemen. I wanna tell you something else, because I told you October the 1st. It's been a good day. It's been a good day for for what I told you, for precious metals, for new releases, and all that good stuff. We also have Audemars Piguet Royal Oak with a new release. They're releasing this beautiful a jumbo. It's an incredible watch. Introducing AP Royal Oak jumbo extra thin self-winding flying tourbillon flyback chronograph. With titanium, beautiful blue dial, and now the Audemars Piguet name is like in not just letter by letter. How do you say that when you write in cursive? Is it in cursive? Help me out. Tourbillon is something out of this world, and to commemorate the anniversary of Audemars Piguet, 150 years. Papi, I have to keep on dropping this on you guys, so you guys no, tú sabes, you guys, when you talk to other people, you know what you're talking about, and they respect you, and they say, hey, hold on, that man knows. It's a limited, to 150s, to commemorate the 150 years of Audemars Piguet, and they're doing this watch. It's real thin. You know what it is to have chronograph in a tourbillon in a watch. Papi, tú sabes, where you have to give props, you give props. You have to give props. You have to. When you're putting two things, chronograph and tourbillon in that same movement, together. So es un reloj que hay que respetarlo, They call it the RD number 5. Esto casi vuela, this thing almost flies, Es una jodienda. And so that watch is also there, and it has a new calibre 8108. Excuse me, calibre 8100. I can't see that well, my God. Yes, it's the calibre 8100 with a 72-hour power reserve. It's a monster of a watch. It's a monster of a watch, and all these people already in the back door. They're already, all of them on the back door. It's a real big long line. There's only 150 pieces. It's 150 pieces. Esto no es para cualquiera. And let me explain to you something. So you might be asking yourselves, so ¿cuánto vale ese aparato? How much does that monster cost? Yes, it's a monster. And yes, it does cost a lot of money. I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you guys can figure it out for me. This has a retail price of, francs, francs, over there, the letters, CHF, 260,000 CHF. I don't know how much that is in American dollars, but I'm sure it's over $300,000, over $300,000 for a titanium watch, titanium, bulk metallic, Es increíble. These people are unbelievable. What they're doing is unbelievable. And I honestly believe that watch is going to cost, for these people that want these watches. And I ask myself, pero coño, ¿quién puede pagar $330,000, $330,000, you know, in the back door. You know, you want that watch in the back door. You got to grease up the agent. You know, you got to grease up the agent. You know, whoever's in charge, you got to grease him up real well. You know, you're going to pay $330,000 plus your Uncle Sam's taxes, you know, and grease up the person. You know, and you're not going to grease up the person $350,000. I wouldn't pay more than 300. Gracias, Grande. Grande says that he will not pay more than $350,000. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm $326,000 is the retail price. Like I said, 330,000, 326. And you already have, you know, all the Lambones and Palomos, you know, ready to get their hands on one. And are they going to get their hands on one? Most likely they're going to get them all, you know, most likely. Because, Papi, I know it's hard for you, you know, you people told me always, no, if I get the watches for me, you know, I don't want to make no money. Okay, that's you guys. Pero el lambío existe en el mundo entero. You know, and if you can get for the watch $375,000, $400,000, you're gonna get rid of it. You know, you're gonna get rid of it. You know, I think it's an unbelievable watch, and that watch is coming in with a lot of power. There's a lot of oportunista. Yeah, it's, you know, a lot of power. So you guys have to get, you know, you might get the phone call. You know, you guys might get lucky. You know, listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. I want to just say something differently. I know of a gentleman that did not have no history on Rolex. I mean, you know, Rolex, no history at Rolex, and he went into the AD. This is 100% true story. This is no sketch. And he went to a Rolex, and he went there, and he was, you know, moping around, you know, asking questions, and like I told you, if sometimes in life you ask the right questions, you say the right things, you know, the sales agent is going to respect you because, you know, he knows that you know about the watch, you know about this, you know about that, you know what a tourbillon is, you know what a split second is, you know what a chrono is. And those people like that because those people the whole day sitting there in the showroom sacándose los mocos, you know, nobody comes in. And this gentleman asked my dream watch, if I can get it, and I would get in a heartbeat. The guy says, and I'll get in a heartbeat, it will be a Rolex Daytona, you know. And you know, the person that he was talking to was the right person to talk to, you know, because in life is like that. You also got to pick the right person to talk to, you know. And so the person told him, hold on. He came back out and he gave him a Rolex Daytona, and the gentleman got it. No history of buying. This is why I'm trying to tell you que esa muela que le meten ustedes, you know, that sketch that they tell you that, you know, put your name here, put this here, put your email, put your name. It's just to find out who you are. This person didn't have no kind of history, and he got a Rolex Daytona, right? So going back to AP again, you know, those people getting ready to get greased up, and they have 150 of those pieces. You know, like when they had those Patek Philippe, you know, Tiffany Dow, 5711, you know, that they only had like 100 and something, you know, it's the same thing. Patek does this, Audemars does this, you know, this kind of game. But that doesn't mean they're the biggest. The biggest is these people right here, you know, the king. The king is the biggest, right? So also, ladies and gentlemen, Audemars Piguet also released 3 new watches on the 38 millimeter. You know, there is more of a, they show in the pictures that you see a professional woman of history wearing the 38 millimeter, you know, a nice, beautiful AP Royal Oak. They show another one, you know, professional ladies, you know. But I'm sure that the mans can also use the 38 millimeter, but they're going down, from a 41 to a 39, to a 38 millimeter. So you also have that too, and those pariguayos, those hoodwinkers and spoof balls, they have been spoofing you guys. They're attacking those watches. So if you guys have any kind of relationship with your AP, start making that phone ring. Because maybe you don't want to stay with it, but maybe you want to buy yourself, I don't know, you want to buy yourself something. All right, so you know what's going on with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about something that I try to practice it every day. I try to practice, going to the gym, trying to do some aerobics. It's not the gym. I go to the golf course. If I'm not playing in the course, I go to the range and I do a lot of running, a little jogging, a little speed walking, all that good stuff. And I go to the gym. I go to the gym. But ladies and gentlemen, every time at this year, big things happen in gyms. There's a lot of people that they're not told, and the bus passes by them, and they never get to hear this story, because none of your favorite Muppet, Boiler Room, Secondary, Gray Watch, Market channels, and dealers should be telling you these things, but they don't. They don't. They just want you to keep on maintaining their lifestyle. They want you to keep on maintaining their Montclair sweaters, Supreme hoodies, Supreme backpacks. You know what I'm trying to say? The Louis Vuitton Nike sneakers, the $17,000 steak dinner, their sushi dinner, $5,000, their red gold fast car. But then I'm going to tell you this. One of the biggest things is on these private gyms. These gym clubs. Like Bally's or LA Fitness, Scandinavian, and you have other ones. They're even bigger ones. More expensive one like Equinox. I think it's called Equinox, right? Equinox. You have one there in Merrick Park in Coral Gables. You have one here in Brickell and all that stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time of the year is when they start, breaking into lockers and taking, the gentleman's watch, an AP, a Patek Philippe, a Richard Mille, a Rolex. All that starts happening now, October, November, December, because people, es el momento to start stealing. There's a gentleman, we have a situation here in Miami that the people are sitting in their car, these hucksters, these flim-flammers, estas cucarachas, estas gonorreas, they stay in their car and they watch to see what kind of car you come into the club. You come in with a go fast car. That's a good sign. They see the go fast car. Now from very far away, they take out, they look at your wrist to see what you have in your wrist. The guy has a Rolex stainless steel Submariner Hawk, bang, fine, And people ask always this question, but how do these people get into the club? It's very simple. I'm going to tell you how they do it. All these clubs are always giving out free passes. Free passes to come in, to take a look, at everything inside, the machinery, the swimming pool, the sauna, in the locker you have a blower to blow your hair, the wishy-washy stuff, So this is how these people come in. And like I said again, they sit in the car, and they look at their mark, they're looking for a mark, There's always two guys, one that stays inside the gym with the gentleman that's the mark, and one that stays inside the locker to, break the locker and take, whatever he can find there, So we have here in Miami, we have a gang que son terrible. These people, they're a pus. They're a pus in the corner of your nail. When you push it and the pus comes out, kind of yellowish, greenish, Those are those people. They're pus. They're just, these people, they're unbelievable, Nelson. Son gonorreas, son gonorrea, infección, con flu amarillo, with yellow fluid, that's how bad they are. And these people, they study you. They study you and study you and study you, and boom. And when they find the right prey, now they have to go inside. They get that ticket, to go in for free, a free pass. Sometimes these Michiganers in those gyms give them a week for free, 1 week for free. So you can decide if you want to buy the $2,000, subscription to their gym. That's a cheap one. If you go to Equinox, you're paying $10,000. I don't know. These rich people are very funny. So the guy goes in, and now one goes into the locker, one stays out there in the gym, making some, push-ups. You know what I'm saying? Some curls, whatever. And one over there, everybody has a phone, blah, 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 blah. And fine, the guy's there next to him. The other guy has a little towel, and he has a little thing to shave, and he's looking around, and he sees that the guy that had the Rolex Hawk is no longer on his wrist. It has to be inside the locker. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, bang. They get it out. There it is. The watch is there. So my advice to all of you out there on these holidays, that you're going to be eating a lot of cake and a lot of eggnog and turkey and all that good stuff. If you're gonna go to the gym with your Go Fast car and all that, remember there's people inside that parking lot. They're looking at you. They can see you, but you can't see them. They can't see, and they work in a prey. They're looking at you. They're studying you. They're watching you, and this is happening. Their people are losing their watches. There was a gentleman that went to a gym. And he was in the gym having a good time, and he was in one of those pricey gyms, like the one I just finished telling you. Those Equinox. I don't know the name of it. Maybe you guys can help me with those names. Those are for rich people. I go to an LA Fitness. That I've been a member since 1983. It was called Vic Tanny, and then from Vic Tanny it was called Scandinavia. Then it was called Bally's, because these people keep on selling the clubs. Big Tanny, Scandinavia, Bally's, and now it's LA Fitness. Mine, I'm grandfather in, but they have these other gyms that are expensive, and people are breaking into their lockers to get they took a date, a 2006 date, yellow gold with a champagne dial, with a wedding ring, it's sad. You go there to do, te quitan las medias y quitarte los zapatos. Damon, don't take off your socks off without taking off your shoes. And you don't know what hit you, because you got one gentleman on the floor where the machines are at, and one gentleman with a towel, with a towel wrapped around him, walking around. His job is just to walk around inside the locker, just to walk around, tú sabes, caminar, just walk around the locker, just walk around, and they have their phones, and they say, the piece is going outside now. Boom. Did he take off the watch? He doesn't have it no more on his wrist. Okay, ataca. And, to break one of those lockers, just, bah, get it out, let's go. Boom, and out. So the guy lost his yellow gold president, with a champagne dial and his wedding ring. If you're going to go to the gym and you have your watch, you have two things to do. You can leave it on your wrist, you can mess it up, you can stretch it while you're doing exercise, or you can put it inside your pocket, wrap it up, put it away. But do not leave your watches in those lockers. People out there están pasando dificultades, and they're all over the place. They're all over the place, and they're watching you. It's a gang. And I'm telling you, the ones, they say, well, but if they steal it from the gym, does the insurance have insurance? Does the gym have insurance? I'm sure they do, but the wishy-washy stuff, you got a deductible, you got this, you got wear and tear, blah, 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 blah. And you might think your watch is worth $30,000, and before they give you a payout, they're giving you a check of $12,000, and that's it, But, so you got to be very, very careful. But now things are getting even more different. This is to your wives. Your wives that are out there, your wives, tus esposas, all these ladies that go to the gym, they wanna be fit, they wanna look good, they wanna look good for their husband, and they go out with with their beautiful chopard watches, with the Louis bags and all that good stuff, and they go with a couple of Cartier love bracelets, but then they go with the biggest mistake of them all. They go with the big rock, a big rock, a big rock, 4 carat, 5 carat, 6 carat, because they have their own private, gym guy that helps them out, spread open, do this, put your leg back here, and all that good stuff. And these ladies go to the gym and they take everything off como una estúpida, and they put it in the locker. I'm going from the man's locker to a woman's locker, ¿ok? Para que no sean lambones, para que le puedan hablar a sus esposas, so you can speak to your wives, the same thing, the same, these women que son rateras, the rats, these are rats, these women are rats, these women that cogen una cabilla, y se la sacan de la coneja, se sacan la cabilla de la coneja. You know what coneja is? I'm not going to tell you, you Google it, I don't know how they take out a big cabilla, cabilla, somebody help me out with the word, cabilla, they take it out. I don't know how they take it out and break the locker and there goes the woman's, 4 carat diamond, boom, dime, yeah. So this is the new thing that's going now. They're also breaking into women. The women are watching women's. Women are watching each other now. If she took off her rings, so most likely, chains, all that good stuff, papi, se roban todo. Se roban hasta los clavos, muchachos. Hasta los clavos. You know what clavos is? They steal even the nails. The nails, they take them. Son ratas. Son ratas, son gonorreas, son churra, meao de cocodrilo, meao de gato. I gotta talk to you that way so you guys can talk to your wives. Don't go to the gym over there with these things, because they're watching you. And the moment that if they see you have it on, they can't do nothing. You're not a target. Son ratones, papi, son ratones. In the moment that they see you have it on, they can't do nothing. But in the moment that they see that you don't have it on, and they see what kind of gear you have on, you have one of those leotards. You know what I'm talking about? Where you putting the ring at? They know you can't put the ring nowhere because está más apretado un sándwich. It's unbelievable what I'm telling you. I'm always gonna tell you people everything that's going on because nobody's gonna tell you nothing. I'm gonna tell you everything because I'm stupid like that. I'm stupid. And como I know already, we're getting to the witches. The witches and the goblins, and then the big turkey, and then big Santa Claus. This is when the attack starts. It starts October, November, and December. Son ratas. That's their job. Like my job is going into a job site to make sure that Kino has the man's doing the proper, job in the home. I don't have to worry about that. These people, their job is to watch you. Watch you. Every move that you take. They even come and talk to you. They even come and talk to you and say hello to you and everything because son una gonorrea. So you gotta be very, very, very careful. Look at that. Years ago, somebody stole my father's 1970 Thunderbird. There you go. So, you gotta watch it. You gotta be ready because everybody has some kind of a monthly year which they're gonna do something bad to us. That's their job. They're looking. It might be even in the car. You might leave your wallet under the seat. I'm one of those dodo birds that I leave just in case you see my truck. I leave sometimes my wallet under the seat. I'm learning not to do it, but I do it still. And these people are watching you the whole day. And ladies and gentlemen, this person that they stole his Rolex President Day 36 millimeter. They catch the person coming out. Man, you can't tell because they fit. They also fit the way they're supposed to look. The guy came out with a nice sport jacket, a nice pair of, I don't know, one of those seven mankind jeans, and a pair of shoes, and he comes out, boom, and he took right there, $30,000. Nice ring, nice watch. And going back to the ladies, they're taking their diamonds like it's a joke. Remember, a woman is even easier to do a flim flam because they're skip hopping around through life like rabbits. My husband gives me this and that's it. Como una locura. Like, let me tell you a story, my personal story. Me and my wife, one day we went on a trip, and we went on a trip. Before we left on the trip, my wife told me that she wanted a chain with one of those coins, one of those Jacques Cousteau coins, you know what I'm trying to say? One of those coins they found in one of those ships, It was gold chain and they had a coin, right? You know what I'm saying? Listen to this. So this is years ago. This was probably in the late 90s, 98, 99. So we go on a trip, me and my wife. We were younger, we still can jump, You know what I'm saying? We were happy, we were walking around and we're very blessed. We're very blessed. So we get back to the hotel and my wife takes off the necklace and she hangs it. Those hotels, they have like lamps, and she hanged it in the lamp, the lamp. And so the next day we were traveling, back home. The shipwreck coins. She wanted one of those. So I got it for her. So she put it there. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Papa. So she put it there. And so we're running through the morning, washing your mouth, take a shower, do this, do that, blah, 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 get the bags ready. Boom, we kiss and we leave. And, the guy's taking us to the airport. One of those hotels that has a shuttle, is it called shuttle? So I'm there, boom, 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 and I'm sitting down and I'm looking at my wife and I'm looking at her neck. And I said to my wife, honey, what's the thing I just bought you? And my wife, I can tell the fear that she had in her face and the way she looked at me, that something was wrong. And I said, what happened? She said, oh my God, I left it. I forgot it. I left it in the hotel. I left it in the hotel. Thank you very much, Christopher, for the super chat. Thank you very much. I cannot push the little heart, but thank you very much for the super chat, for cooperating with the channel. So I left it in the hotel. So we still had a couple of hours before we were going to take off. So we ran back to the hotel, and we got back to the hotel. The lady that's cleaning the room, she already cleaned the room up. This guy, the supervisor, went inside to check out the room. To make the long story short, I don't want to keep on bugging you guys out. The chain was gone, so it's like that, so you guys got to be very, very careful. And what are you doing in these holidays, because they're watching you. In particular, if you guys, do a lot of you here go to club gyms? Do you guys go to club gyms, or you guys don't go to club gyms? Because if you don't go to club gyms, then you don't have a problem, but yeah, but my wife still goes to the gym, and so do I. But my wife has been read, the instructions. Don't take nothing over there. Walk in the way you are and walk out the way you are. Get on your car and goodbye. Yeah, so you got to be very careful because they're watching you, Papi. And you can tell, because at times I have walked in, some people have even recognized me, and when I go to the gym, they say, "Hey man, don't you have a channel of watches?" And I say yes. And sometimes I see them with watches on. I say, "Don't leave your watch in your locker. You're gonna get it lost." And they hear me and they go, "Wow, yes, I have done it before." I say, "Don't do that." And the other one that's even worse are the ones that are in the gym. Listen to this one. Son más locos todavía, because these cockroaches, son cucarachas, y son cucarachas malas. They're terrible cockroaches. Not even sprays can kill them, and they don't give up. Just because you went out to the main room where all the machines are at, and you still have the watch, they don't give up, because now they have another thing. Now they're waiting for you to see if you're gonna go to the sauna, to the jacuzzi, or to the pool. So one of those 3 outs, it can happen now. Now he goes back, y se pone la trusa, the little baby suspiros, those Speedos, you know what I'm trying to say, right? The Speedos. And they go there and they put on their Speedos, and now they're watching you, and now they know that watch was taken off. That AP Royal Oak, Rose Gold, chronograph, blue dial. They know it's in there. So now one goes to the swimming pool too, or he sits down in one of the chairs, and he's telling the guy inside, he's swimming, bro, he's in lap 4. Don't worry about it. He's in lap 4, do your thing. Boom, pop, boom, AP gone. So you guys have to be smart. We got to touch everything in this channel, ladies and gentlemen. We have to touch everything in this channel. And, and this is why I take time to tell you all this. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say, and don't be stupid. These people, man, they're watching you. It's like, how do you say that? I feel like I was, ¿cómo se llama la palabra esa? Like when you feel like you've been raped. You feel like you've been raped. Like somebody was watching you. From 50 feet away, he was watching you, or she was watching you. She was watching your wife's big 5-carat ring. She was watching it, and she was watching it. Papi, they get you. Papi, they get you. I'm gonna be honest. They get you, and they get you deep, all the way in. You don't know what happened, papi. Hay un dicho que poco a poco, poco a poco. I know how to say it in Spanish, but there's an old saying that says that the elephant, el elefante, se la metió a la hormiga de poquito a poquito. So don't be an ant, no sea una hormiga. The elephant, the elephant is a monster. The ant is this. The elephant te va a coger, he's gonna get you. Maybe you guys didn't get that, but that's fine. Con paciencia, papi, tú lo sabes. Grande, eres un monstruo grande, eres un monstruo. So it's what it is, right, guys? So you have to, tú lo sabes, bien suavecito, y se va a ir, And they're watching you there, and they sit there. But I have always told those people in the gym that I go to, which is LA Fitness, I say, guys, let me tell you the truth. When you guys give out those free passes for a week here, you're giving those free passes. You know what they're doing? But you can't be thinking like that. Well, I'm thinking like that because this is what happens, This is what happens all day. These are the people, papi, these people are so rata, that I always wear jackets. I always wear jackets, little Nike jackets. I put them up because I do a little bit of, sweat, whatever, a little workout. And sometimes I take off my jacket, when I'm changing, and I put it there in a section where you put the jackets to hang and dry. Papi, when I come back out, se han llevado hasta los calzoncillos míos cagados. They have even taken my underwears with skid marks. These people son rata. Son ratas. So those people in those gyms are the causes of all these things that happen, that we get, what's the name of violated? Violated. Is anybody a counselor here? A lawyer? Is it called violated? I feel violated. I was violated, No, tú sabes, coño, me jodieron. You know what I'm trying to say? They did something to me, It's not a good thing. So I'm preparing you guys for that. I hope you understand, what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Mr. Dona. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to bring down the city that I'm from, but I'm telling you guys, if you guys are from Miami, you guys know what I'm talking about. We live with Miami, Florida, which I love very, very much. I've been here since I'm a young boy. But man, we have people here in Miami, man, that they're dangerous, man, dangerous, 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 dangerous. So if you come here, do not have a hiccup, because if you have a hiccup, that's their opportunity to get you. They're waiting for you to have a hiccup. Have a slip hiccup to get you. Whatever it is. Miami es terrible, and also New York City too. New York is also in the same boat. People are losing their watches in every corner. And you say, but what kind of watches? Well, it can be from a Tissot to a Richard Mille to a Rolex to an AP to a Patek. It can be all that. They're watching you. That's their job. Ladies and gentlemen, people are making today $48,000 a year, $48,000 a year. And with that, they have to pay the rent, they have to pay the light bill, they have to pay, how do you call that thing for the computer? TV, internet and TV, you got to pay all that. And with just one shot of you studying somebody for a week, and you get that in one shot, Papi, you made your year already, man. You made your year. You don't see it that way, and I don't see it that way. Well, I do see it that way. I'm explaining to you, but you probably don't see it that way because we're happy. We have a couple of coins in the bank, and we're good to go. But the internet, right? The internet, cable TV, those $48,000 a year that you make have to pay all that. And I ask myself, man, how are people today surviving on $48,000? But they are surviving on $48,000. I don't want to talk no more about gyms. I gave you that lead on how to see things and what to do, how to protect yourself. No sean pendejo. I have 3 watches that one of my subscribers, he wanted me to tell him what prices I believe he should pay. He sent them to me earlier, and I told him that I was going to do it because today I'm not going to do a long watch market update. But I talked to you about very important things today. I covered Omega watches already are in the game of tariffs. I covered the silver. Silver material is something that you guys take a look at it. I'm not giving you no advice on what to do. Take a look at silver and the way silver has behaved. I talked to you about Moser watches, their new releases too. I talked about the AP Royal Oak Jumbo. This is unbelievable. Jumbo with a tourbillon, with a flyback chrono, flying tourbillon, blue dial. And now the Audemars Piguet is written in cursive, And not like, letter to letter, it's in cursive. You know what I'm trying to say, right? It's in cursive. Audemars Piguet, and the watch, it costs CHF 260,000, francs. Eso mismito, papá, eso mismito. Gracias, mijo. Thank you, luxury gentleman. And it's the price, Mr. Dona told me 326,000 US dollars is the price of the watch. And I also talked to you about that they also released 3 new AP Royal Oaks 38 millimeters. I believe that a man can also, use that watch, wear that watch. But if you look at AP's website, you're gonna see that the people they're have the watches on. Son mujeres, they're women's. They have it on. I'm not saying they're women's. I'm saying that they took it from a 41 to a 39 to a 38. So look at that too. Right? So I hope that helps you out with all these things that I touched today. I think I touched some very important things with you guys. I really did. The most important one to me was the gems. Those gems son una locura. They're stealing people's cars. Even the cars. If you go there with your little Porsche 911, you park it there, and you got these rims that the rims cost, I don't know, $12,000, the four of them, and somebody's looking for them, boom, your car is gone. So be careful out there, because this is a time that these cockroaches, these infections, because these people are infections, from the man to a woman, the woman is looking to also break into your wife's locker, okay? No sean lambones. I'm gonna give you 3 watches here for this gentleman. The first watch is a Richard Mille. It is the RM023. This watch that I'm talking about is being paraded como una prostituta, like a prostitute. This watch is being paraded around, and they've been asking for this watch 110, and from 110 they went down to 103, and then they went down to $96,000. And this person has been looking at this Richard Mille RM023 rose gold with a burgundy trim, burgundy dial. It's one of those watches. And I'm gonna tell you, sir, you do whatever you want. Google it so you know what I'm talking about. Richard Mille RM023 rose gold. Don't pay for that watch. Don't pay more than $83,000 in dropping. Richard Mille watches, ladies and gentlemen, please, please be careful. Be careful. La fiebre de Richard Mille se está terminando. The fever of Richard Mille watches is coming to a standstill. I'm not going to say it's going to be over, but it's coming to a standstill. So be careful with Richard Mille watches, all right? That is the RM023. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have a Patek Philippe for this gentleman. A Patek Philippe Cubitus, rose gold, beautiful looking watch, has a 40 millimeter casing, 40 millimeter. It is the 7128R. 7128R. It has a retail price, just in case you want to look it up. It has a retail price of $92,409. It's fully rose gold, casing and bracelet. With that chocolate dial. If you look at it, now that I look at it more and more and more, it's beginning to look to me like even a Nautilus. The same thing, same dial. Yeah. I mean the Nautilus is a little different. The way it's shaped, but para mí la misma. Yeah. Exactly. So that 7128 has a retail price of $92,469. And I'm going to tell you, sir, don't pay for that watch, no matter if they're telling you that they're selling it for 146. They're asking you 143. Even sometimes they're a little gutsy and they'll put a 5 there, a 151. I'm going to tell you, sir, don't pay for that watch. Does anybody know what I'm going to ask you? What I'm going to say not to pay for that Cubitus 7128, your rose gold, 40 millimeter. Does anybody have an idea? I don't think you guys still don't know too much about the numbers of that watch. Does anybody know? We have 27 organic watch channel subscribers and 23 thumbs up. Nobody knows. Okay. I'm going to tell you, don't pay for that watch more than 100. I'm going to put a three, second number, 103, $134,000 in dropping. You do whatever you want. Remember, these are the months These are the months they're gonna flim flam you. You know, October, November, December. You know, January they take a break, and then you got the heart. You know, Valentine's Day. Coño, 138. Very good, Grande. You're good, Papa. You're good. Then you're on target, all right? Don't pay more than that. Also, we have a Rolex, a GMT Sprite, you know, with a green dial and a green and black ceramic bezel. It's white gold with an oyster bracelet. You know, I told you always that sometimes these big time people, they make mistakes. You know, they make mistakes. And I honestly think that, you know, I honestly think they made a mistake with that watch, you know, because you're already having a stainless steel with a black dial, with a black and green ceramic bezel, and it has a Jubilee bracelet, the stainless steel. This one is oyster, and I'm just gonna tell you, you do whatever you want, but I wouldn't pay for that watch more than. And it might sound crazy to you guys, but to me, it doesn't sound great. I'm used to this already. Don't pay for that watch more than $43,000. You know, it's what it is. You know, they can tell you that they bought it and their AD, and they bought it, you know, for this, you know, to get allocated Daytona, you know, meteorite out, but that watch is dead in water, you know. Thank you for those 30 thumbs up, you know, hopefully, you know. So be careful with that one. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the Rolex Daytona, John Mayer, the green dial with the gold gauges, you know, 40 millimeter, the new one, you know, not the old one, the new one now. And I'm gonna tell all of you, ladies and gentlemen, you know, they don't know what to do with that watch. They don't want to showcase it no more because nobody is picking on the prices that they're throwing out there. You know, nadie está picando. You know, nobody is, you know. Biting on those prices, so that they're holding those watches. You know, they say we can't because they're not biting. You know, they're asking again for the John Mayer, the all green one, the original John Mayer. They're already asking for the watch, which I laugh because I know that nobody's, you know, va a picar por esos relojes. They're not gonna buy, but you know, you people are letting them que se inflen. You know. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger because, you know, they can do whatever they want. Is all of them against me? You know, I can get a few of them. Let me tell you, yo me fajo con un par de ellos, a patar por la nalga con todos ellos. You know, lo redamos. But there's, you know, at the long run, they're gonna beat me because it's just me alone, and you know, recovering tomato cans. But don't pay for that John Mayer. Don't pay more than, you do whatever you want, but don't pay more than $76,000. That's the number that I have for you, sir, and I hope that helps you out. I think I gave you the 4 watches. You know, do your best, do your homework, and ladies and gentlemen, this is your moment. This is your moment. Tu aprieta, you know, tu aprieta. Look at that, 76. Wow. Tu aprieta, and you know, you control. If you guys decide, because we have people in this channel who are big collectors. We have them, you know. They're quiet in a corner, but they are big. But if you guys just, you know, you just say, listen, man, I'm a big fan of Opus in Time, you know, Sweet Kick Kino One, and I go, you say these magic words. I go with the prices that they tell me. You know, I respect what you do, sir. You know, what your watches. I respect all that. But the people that I go by prices is Opus in Time watches. If they told me this is the price, I'm gonna come and tell you, well, listen, I like the Daytona yellow gold John Mayer with the yellow gauges, greened out, and my man over there, Sweet Kick Kino, told me don't pay more than $76,000. An example. You told them that. Don't be scared. Cash is king. And when you have cash, you control the conversation. You know, that, papi, having cash, papi, eso that's beautiful, man. Eres Tarzan, you're Tarzan. You know, you can do whatever you want. You know, you can do whatever you want. Tú sabes, you have the money. It's not like, you're making believe that you have the money. No, I frogging have the money. Frog. I frogging have the money. And you can do whatever you want. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this Watch Market Update show. For today, you learned something with everything that I give you. Don't fall asleep, with the poor man's, I call it the poor man's precious metal, silver, Be careful out there with that, Thank you again, all of you, for being here. Thank you again for supporting the channel. All of you, I mean all of you, thank you for supporting the channel very much. I appreciate, when you do that, I get happy, and I will continue bringing, good content to you guys that makes sense. Right, guys? Anyway, guys, like me and Sweet Kid Kino will say always, take care and brush your hair. Gracias por todo, muchacho. Cuídense. Be careful over there in those club gyms, They're watching you. Peace. Good night. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you very much. Gracias. Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Mr. Donut. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, all of you. Thurston Howell III. All of you. Thank you so much. What price is that, Alex? What price do you need, Alex? What price do you need? What price? What watch is that? Thank you, Brett. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. What watch model is that, Alex? Datejust. A two-tone or just regular blue dial? Okay, I got you on that one. I got you. You're talking about the 41 millimeter? 41? 41? Jubilee 41 or 36? What is it? Yes, 41. Okay, I got you. I got you. Good night, guys. Los quiero mucho. Bendiciones a todos. Have a wonderful night. Be well. Be safe. Gracias por todos. Gracias. I got you, Alex.